The grand exhibition hall of Terminus Station stretched across 3 cubic kilometers of polished obsidian flooring, and right now, every single centimeter of it was dedicated to making me Commander Vrix of the Thelonian Defense Corps. Question my career choices. 47 species had gathered here. 47 civilizations, each one desperate to prove they had the most devastating, the most innovative, the most absolutely spectacular instrument of destruction in the known galaxy. And me. I was the poor bastard assigned to judge this cosmic arms fair. Commander Vrix, chirped BZZT, my assistant, a Klaxarian whose exoskeleton currently displayed a cheerful shade of optimistic yellow. The Mordelian delegation is requesting permission to demonstrate their quantum disruptor array. I rubbed my face with 3 of my 4 hands, keeping the 4th one wrapped around my thermal flask of Kresh, because sanity required stimulants. Tell them they can demonstrate it in the testing arena, not in the main hall. We already lost 2 viewing platforms when the Graxians got enthusiastic with their plasma cannon. Acknowledged. BZZT scurried off, antennae bobbing. The exhibition had been organized by the Galactic Council as a response to the increasing tensions along the Outer Rim. Someone, somewhere, had decided that if everyone showed off their biggest toys, maybe we could avoid actually using them. Typical political logic. Show me your stick so I don't have to get hit by it. I wandered through the displays, data pad in hand, making notes that nobody would read, but that I was contractual obligated to write anyway. The Vortani had brought something they called the singularity rifle. It created miniature black holes. Terrifying. Absolutely. Practical. Debatable. The demonstration had involved the complete annihilation of a test asteroid, which was impressive until you realized the weapon took 16 hours to charge, and required a fusion reactor the size of a small shuttle. The hexapods showcased their neural scrambler, a device that could turn an enemy's brain into something resembling overcooked pasta. Elegant, cruel, and disturbingly efficient. I gave them high marks for creativity, lower marks for the fact that it gave me nightmares. The crystalloids, beings made of living silicon, had developed a sonic weapon that could shatter molecular bonds. They demonstrated it on a block of reinforced titanium, which promptly became a cloud of metallic dust. Several delegates applauded. I made a note to stand very far away from crystalloids during diplomatic functions. Commander. BZZT returned, now displaying anxious orange stripes. The human delegation has arrived. Ah yes. Humans. Earth. Sol system. The newest species to join the Galactic Council, barely 3 years into their membership. I'd read the files. Aggressive, inventive, slightly unhinged. They'd gone from splitting the atom to splitting solar systems in less than a century. Their military doctrine apparently consisted of hit it until it stops moving, then hit it some more to be sure. This should be entertaining. Show them in, I said, taking a long drink of Kresh. The human delegation consisted of 3 individuals. The leader was a woman named Captain Valdez, who had the kind of smile that suggested she knew something you didn't and found it hilarious. Next to her stood a tall man called Lieutenant Kim, who carried a large metallic case with the care of someone transporting either explosives or fine wine. The third was a younger woman, Ensign Torres, who was busy recording everything with about 6 different devices strapped to her uniform. Commander Vrix. Captain Valdez extended her hand, that weird human gesture of ritualized grabbing. I shook it with 2 of my hands, which seemed to amuse her. We're honored to participate in this exhibition. Welcome, Captain. I trust your journey was pleasant. Standard diplomatic pleasantries. I was good at those. Oh, you know, the usual. Hyperspace makes Kim nauseous. Torres spent the whole trip arguing with the navigation computer, and I discovered that human coffee doesn't translate well through molecular replicators. She grinned. But we're here, and we're ready to show you what humanity brings to the table. I gestured toward the exhibition floor, where elaborate displays from dozens of species created a maze of deadly technology. As you can see, the competition is quite extensive. We've seen weapons that can crack planets, devices that manipulate time itself, and one particularly disturbing invention that turns organic matter into decorative sculptures. Sounds like a fun party, Valdez said cheerfully. We walked through the exhibition, and I pointed out various displays. The humans made appropriate impressed noises, asked intelligent questions, and seemed genuinely fascinated by everything. Torres nearly got herself killed by getting too close to the Zephyrin antimatter projector, but Kim pulled her back just in time. So, Captain, I said as we approached an empty display platform, clearly reserved for the human contribution, what exactly has Earth brought to showcase? Valdez's smile grew wider. Kim set down the metallic case and opened it with a dramatic hiss of pressure seals. Inside, cushioned by foam padding, was a stick, not a technological marvel that looked like a stick. Not some exotic weapon disguised as a stick. An actual, literal, wooden stick, about 1 meter long. Sharpened at one end. Slightly charred at the other, as if someone had held it over a fire. I stared at it. BZZT stared at it. Several nearby delegates, who had paused to watch the human arrival, stared at it. The silence stretched like taffy. That's, I began carefully, a stick. A spear, Valdez corrected helpfully. Well, technically a sharpened stake. The distinction matters to anthropologists. You brought a wooden stick to an advanced weapons exhibition. We brought humanity's first and most enduring weapon, she said, and there wasn't a trace of humor in her voice now. This is a replica, obviously. But this design, this exact configuration of tool, has been with our species for over 2 million years. I looked at the stick again. Then at Valdez. Then at the stick. You're joking. Oh, Commander, I never joke about spears. She picked up the stick, hefted it, tested its balance. While the Vortani were still swimming in their planet's oceans, humans were hunting megafauna with these. While the hexapods were evolving their first neural clusters, we were bringing down prey 10 times our size with pointy sticks and audacity. A crowd was gathering now. Other delegates, curious about what the humans had brought, what devastating superweapon Earth had developed, they saw the stick. I heard someone laugh. Then someone else. Within moments, the gathering crowd was buzzing with barely suppressed amusement. Captain Valdez, I said quietly, trying to be diplomatic, I understand you may be making some kind of philosophical point, but this is a serious exhibition. The Galactic Council expects a demonstration. Valdez interrupted. Absolutely. Kim, set up target range 3. Wait, you can't seriously. But they were already moving. Kim produced a portable holographic projector, creating a series of targets at varying distances. Standard ballistic test configuration. Torres was recording everything, practically vibrating with excitement. Valdez walked to the throwing line, the sharpened stick held loosely in her right hand. The thing about humans, she said conversationally, loud enough for the gathered crowd to hear, is that we're persistently, obnoxiously good at throwing things. It's a neurological quirk. Our brains are wired for it. Trajectory calculation, muscle memory, hand-eye coordination. We're built for this. She threw the spear. It flew straight, fast, and buried itself in the center of the target 40 meters away with a solid thunk that echoed through the hall. The laughter stopped. 40 meters, Valdez continued, walking to retrieve the spear. Decent for a hand throw. Our ancestors could manage further. And before you say that's unimpressive compared to energy weapons, consider this. That spear cost nothing to make. It requires no ammunition, no power source, no maintenance beyond occasionally sharpening the point. It makes no sound, gives off no energy signature. It can be made from materials found on 98% of habitable planets. She returned to the throwing line. It's also, she added, her voice dropping, absolutely terrifying in the right circumstances. This time, she threw harder. The spear hit a target 60 meters away, penetrating clean through the holographic barrier, and embedding in the safety wall behind it. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Not laughter now. Something else. Torres stepped forward, her recording devices focused on Valdez. The spear represents humanity's tactical philosophy. Adaptability. Resourcefulness. The ability to create effective weapons from anything available. Every human child learns to throw. It's instinctive. Charming, drawled a voice from the crowd. I turned to see Ambassador Vrix of the Vortan Empire, a species that prided themselves on their sophisticated weapons technology. But surely you don't expect us to be impressed by primitive hunting tools. Valdez smiled at him. It was not a friendly smile. Primitive, she asked. Ambassador, this primitive hunting tool allowed my species to survive ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and predators with claws and teeth designed specifically to kill us. We took this stick, and we conquered our entire planet with it. Then we looked at the stars and thought, you know what? Let's conquer those too. She gestured at the exhibition hall, at all the gleaming weapons, the technological marvels, the instruments of sophisticated destruction. All of this, she said softly, started with a stick. And then Captain Valdez did something that made my blood run cold. She turned to Ambassador Vrix and said, would you like a demonstration? A real one. The challenge hung in the air like a blade. Ambassador Vrix's facial tendrils went rigid, which in Vortan body language meant he was either very insulted or very interested. Possibly both. A demonstration. Against what, exactly? Captain Valdez's smile didn't waver. Against your singularity rifle. Or any weapon here. Pick one. The exhibition hall went dead silent. You could have heard a neutrino drop. You want to pit a wooden stick against advanced energy weapons? I interjected, because someone had to be the voice of reason here, and apparently that cursed duty fell to me. Captain, that's not just illogical, it's suicidal. Is it? Valdez turned to face the crowd, and I realized with growing horror that she'd planned this entire thing. The casual entrance, the philosophical speech, the demonstrations. All theater leading to this moment. Commander Vrix, what's the primary weakness of the Vortani singularity rifle? I blinked. The charge time. 16 hours minimum. And the hexapod neural scrambler. Limited range. 15 meters maximum effectiveness. The crystalloid sonic disruptor. Line of sight requirement and significant power drain after 3 consecutive shots. Where was she going with this? Valdez nodded. Every weapon in this hall is magnificent. Devastating. Capable of incredible destruction. And every single one has a fatal flaw. They are too specialized, too dependent on specific conditions, too resource-intensive. She held up the sharpened stick. This works everywhere. In vacuum with a pressure suit. Underwater. In electromagnetic dead zones. During solar flares. In the mud, in the snow, in the dark. Lieutenant Kim stepped forward, his expression serious now. We studied the files on every weapon system here. Impressive catalog. But you know what we noticed? Almost every advanced weapon system fails in adverse conditions. They need power, stable environments, trained operators, maintenance, ammunition. Humans, Torres added, still recording, spent 2 million years learning to kill things with whatever was available. Rocks, bones, sticks. We got really, really good at it. Then we invented metals, explosives, lasers, plasma. But we never forgot the basics. Ambassador Kelthrix made a dismissive sound. Philosophical posturing. Your primitive weapon cannot compete with modern technology. Then prove it, Valdez said flatly. Combat scenario. Your choice of weapon versus mine. First strike wins. The crowd erupted in excited chatter. BZZT turned bright red, which meant panic. I felt a headache forming behind my primary eyes. This is highly irregular, I protested weakly. But not forbidden, Valdez countered. The exhibition rules allow for competitive demonstrations between willing participants. Ambassador Kelthrix, are you willing? The Vortan ambassador's tendrils quivered. Backing down now would be a massive loss of face. Very well. But I choose the conditions. And the weapon. Naturally. This was insane. This was going to end with dead humans and a diplomatic incident that would take decades to resolve. I pulled up my datapad with shaking hands. If you're both serious about this, we need to move to Combat Arena 7. Full safety protocols. Medical teams on standby. And I'm documenting that I advised against this. Noted, Valdez said cheerfully. 20 minutes later, we'd assembled in the combat arena, a spherical chamber 50 meters in diameter with adjustable gravity and environmental controls. The observation galleries filled rapidly with delegates from every species present. Word had spread. The humans were challenging the Vortans with a stick. Ambassador Kelthrix had chosen the Mordelian quantum disruptor, a weapon that could phase targets partially out of reality. Nasty piece of work. It didn't need 16 hours to charge, only 90 seconds. He stood at one end of the arena, the weapon mounted on a stabilizer rig, its power core humming. Captain Valdez stood at the opposite end, holding her wooden spear. She'd removed her uniform jacket, standing in just her black undershirt and pants. She looked relaxed. Too relaxed. Arena configuration, Kelthrix announced. Urban ruins. Standard Earth gravity. Moderate visibility. The arena shimmered, and suddenly we were looking at a ruined cityscape. Broken buildings, rubble piles, narrow corridors. Smart choice by Kelthrix. Limited the humans' throwing angles, gave him clear firing lanes. Combat begins on my mark, I announced through the intercom, my voice echoing in the arena. First confirmed hit wins. Lethal force is prohibited by safety fields. Are both participants ready? Ready, Kelthrix confirmed, settling behind his weapon. Valdez rolled her shoulders, testing the weight of her spear. Ready. Begin. Kelthrix immediately activated the quantum disruptor. The weapon began its charge cycle, a high-pitched whine building. 90 seconds until it could fire. He had visual on Valdez's position, tracked her through the weapon's targeting system. Valdez ran. Not away. Toward him, but at an angle, using the rubble for cover. She moved fast, faster than I'd expected. Kelthrix adjusted his aim, following her movement, but the weapon needed another 70 seconds. She disappeared behind a collapsed wall section. Kelthrix's tendrils twitched nervously. 60 seconds. Where was she? A piece of rubble sailed over the wall, arcing toward his position. Kelthrix flinched, then steadied himself. Distraction. Obvious. He kept his aim on the wall where she disappeared. 40 seconds. Another rock, from a different angle. Then another. Kelthrix was scanning multiple directions now, trying to track her position by the thrown debris. Clever, murmured someone in the observation gallery. She's masking her actual position. 30 seconds, the quantum disruptor's whine reached its peak. 20 seconds until full charge. Vrix had multiple possible positions triangulated. He'd fire at the most likely, then sweep if he missed. 15 seconds, Valdez exploded from cover, but not from where Vrix expected. She'd somehow circled to his flank, moving through spaces too narrow for most species. She was 30 meters away, closing fast. 10 seconds. Vrix swung the weapon toward her, but the mounted rig was heavy, designed for precision, not rapid targeting. She was sprinting, the spear raised. 5 seconds. She threw. The spear left her hand like it had been fired from a railgun. It flew in a flat arc, spinning slightly, covering 30 meters in less than 2 seconds. The quantum disruptor finished charging. Vrix fired. The spear hit him in the center chest plate a fraction of a second before the disruptor's beam would have struck Valdez. Safety fields activated for both of them, freezing the combat before actual harm occurred. The spear bounced off Vrix's armor, rendered harmless by the protective energy barrier. The disruptor's beam dissipated against similar shielding that had surrounded Valdez, but the sensors were clear. The spear had made contact first. Combat concluded, I announced, my voice hollow. Winner, Captain Valdez of Earth. The observation galleries erupted. Some species were cheering, others arguing, a few were frantically recalculating their diplomatic positions regarding humanity. Valdez walked over to retrieve her spear, breathing hard but grinning. Vrix stood frozen, staring at his weapon's targeting data, trying to understand how he'd lost. You used the environment, he said finally. The terrain masking, the distraction throws, the unexpected approach vector. I used everything available, Valdez corrected. That's what humans do. We adapt. We improvise. We use whatever works. She hefted the spear. This stick taught us that. Taught us to think tactically, to use terrain, to create advantages from nothing. I descended to the arena floor, BZZT trailing behind me, his exoskeleton now a confused pattern of multiple colors. Captain Valdez, that was either the most brilliant or most reckless demonstration I've witnessed in my career. Why not both? She wiped sweat from her forehead. Commander, the point of this exhibition was to showcase our capabilities, right? To understand each other's strengths. Yes, but then you need to understand something about humanity. We don't have the strongest bodies. We're not the smartest species. We don't have natural armor or weapons or extended lifespans. What we have is adaptability and stubbornness. She looked at the gathered delegates watching from above. We took sticks and conquered our world. We took fire and drove back the darkness. We took rocks and built cities. We looked at problems that should have killed us, and we solved them with whatever we had available. Lieutenant Kim joined us, carrying the metallic case. Every advanced weapon system humanity has developed carries that same philosophy. Versatility. Redundancy. The ability to function in worst-case scenarios. We build plasma rifles that can also function as clubs. We design spacecraft that can land anywhere, repair themselves with local materials. We never forget that sometimes, the best weapon is the one you can make from whatever's around you. Torres was still recording, her devices capturing the reactions of dozens of species. The galaxy is dangerous. Full of unknowns. You can't predict every threat, every situation. But you can prepare by staying adaptable. By remembering that sometimes, the simple solution is the best one. Ambassador Vrix approached, his tendrils now in a pattern I recognized as respect. I underestimated you. I apologize. Valdez extended her hand again, that human gesture. No apology needed. You gave me a proper challenge. That weapon of yours is terrifying, by the way. If you'd had clear line of sight, I'd have been phased into next week. They shook, and I saw something shift in the observation galleries. Understanding, maybe. Or possibly fear. Hard to tell with some species. Over the next hour, delegates descended from the galleries, wanting to examine the spear, asking questions, requesting demonstrations. Valdez and her team obliged, showing throwing techniques, explaining the physics, discussing how this ancient technology had influenced modern human weapons design. The hexapods were fascinated by the neurological aspects. The crystalloids wanted to analyze the wood's molecular structure. Even the Vortani admitted grudging respect for the simplicity and effectiveness. I found myself standing next to Valdez during a brief quiet moment. You planned all of this. Every second, she admitted. We knew we couldn't compete on pure technological innovation. Most species here have been spacefaring for thousands of years. We've had faster than light travel for less than 50. So we decided to showcase what makes us unique. The ability to be terrifyingly effective with minimal resources. Exactly. She smiled. Plus, it made for great theater. Torres is going to turn this into a recruitment video that'll have humans lining up to join the Defense Corps. I laughed despite myself. You know half the delegates are now terrified of your species, right? Good. The other half are impressed. Both reactions work in our favor diplomatically. She grew serious. Commander, humanity didn't claw its way to the stars to be underestimated. We did it because we're survivors. Because we adapt. Because we take whatever we have, no matter how primitive, and we make it work. I'm including all of that in my report. Please do. The exhibition continued for 3 more days. Other species demonstrated their weapons, their technologies, their capabilities. Some were more impressive than the quantum disruptor. Some were less practical than the spear, but everyone remembered the humans and their sharpened stick. On the final day, as the delegations prepared to depart, I found the human team packing up their display. The spear rested in its case, just a simple wooden implement that had somehow changed the entire dynamic of the exhibition. Captain Valdez, I said, your species is either going to be our greatest ally, or our most dangerous rival. She grinned. Why not both? As I watched their shuttle depart Terminus Station, I updated my report. 47 species had brought their best weapons. The humans brought a stick, and somehow, against all logic and sense, they'd won. I took a long drink of Kresh and made a note to never, ever underestimate humans again, because if they could do this much with a sharpened stick, I really didn't want to see what they'd bring to the next exhibition.